I male, 35 met my ex-female 26 when she was in her first year of college. And I was in my last. We were both studying to become doctors and that made us fall for each other very fast. We were like a match made in heaven. Some people say there's too much of an age difference between us, 9 years. But it seemed to work out really well for us because she looked up to me and respected me. I helped her study and pass exams for the next 2 years that we dated during the beginning of our relationship. I graduated and started my own practice in the town. Within a few months, I hired a male nurse to work with me and was looking for a secretary. Meanwhile, my girlfriend started inviting me to her parents' house for dinner monthly and we all got along really well. Her parents continued to hint towards making wedding arrangements. I usually just ignored them because I thought it was much better to date her longer and let her graduate during one of these dinners to change the subject from wedding arrangements. I mentioned how I needed to hire a secretary. My girlfriend's eyes lit up and asked if she could work for me. I asked how she'd keep up with studies while working full-time. And she said she dropped out of school. My jaw dropped in front of her parents. I was embarrassed that she told me this news in front of them because they already knew about it after dinner. I asked her more about it and she told me it was only going to be a short break. Her mother was going through medical treatments and would need help in the evenings and occasionally overnight. Although this didn't make a lot of sense to me. I agreed to let her start working as my secretary during the next year. Her routine was to work with me in the office and then help her mother in the evenings. If we were lucky, we had a nice dinner out and an evening at my place over the weekend. I loved having her in my office. Every time I got to walk by her, I was happy to see her face and talk to her. She made the patients feel optimistic and cared for and she got along fine with the male nurse on staff. He even told me she's going to make a great doctor and wife while we were out to dinner. One night, I proposed. I warned her that we wouldn't get married until she graduated school, but that I wanted to promise ourselves to each other. Now, she was so thrilled and surprised she called her parents immediately to share the good news. I was on cloud 9 for the next few weeks. It all came to a screeching halt. One day when I happened to see my fiancé in the break room at work, she didn't notice I was there and neither did the male nurse. They were sitting awfully close to each other and he was whispering in her ear as she looked at her phone, pretending not to notice how close he was from above the table. I could tell his arm was reaching for her legs. My heart was beating so loud. I was sure they could hear it. I speed walked to the security room where I looked at the security footage we had from the past few weeks. There were 2 times where I could see him touching her butt but nothing else incriminating. That night, I invited her to my house and while she was in the shower, I unlocked her phone. Her password wasn't what she told me it was, but my fingerprint was still able to unlock it. It was programmed on her phone from when she insisted we wouldn't hide anything from each other. I found what I was hoping not to text between her and the male nurse indicating she didn't believe she got enough attention from me and that I took too long to propose. As I continued reading, I found arrangements they'd made for her to sleep over his house and commentary about how good he was in bed. Needless to say, I was furious. My hands were shaking as I held her phone. I was the one that helped her study, hired her at my practice and trusted her to be my faithful bride using her phone. I sent myself the screenshots of their conversation and didn't even bother to cover my tracks after her shower. She left to go help her mom right around the time she would have gotten there and had time to unlock her phone. She called me, I didn't answer. She called me again and again, 32 times to be exact. At this point, I felt powerful and proud of myself. I didn't blow up at her or lose my temper at all, which made her suffering even worse. She left voicemails that said she noticed I saw the messages and that I have proof of it. She begged me not to tell her parents or anyone else and said that if I forgave her, she'd be faithful to me forever. I laughed out loud. Anyone who can't prove their loyalty to someone for a few years doesn't deserve the promise of a lifetime. She had also shown me her flake in the way. She suddenly dropped out of medical school. I tried to give her a chance to show me that she had the drive and respect I needed from her that she needed from herself. But she failed miserably. I waited as long as I could to call her. She was so hopeful when she answered the phone. But all I said was that she was fired and didn't need to return to the office. She started sobbing just before I hung up on her. I also fired the male nurse, and it was easy for me to find replacements for both of them. My business didn't suffer at all. As a matter of fact, it improved. I hardly grieved over the loss of this woman because had I married her, it would have been so much worse. I wasn't planning to tell her parents what happened. But after her father asked 1/4 time, I sent him the screenshots I had. He replied with sympathy and encouragement and expressed that I didn't deserve to be treated that way. The day after that, my ex left a voicemail on my phone screaming at me for telling her dad about what she did. She complained that they weren't going to pay for her schooling anymore because she proved herself to be an idiot. I am so sorry. You found yourself in this situation. You seem to be a great man with a good head on your shoulders. She chose to be unfaithful while she was working for you. She should have treated you with the respect you deserved as her boss and her fiancé. You are certainly right to assume that she would not be faithful in your marriage. Congratulations for handling yourself in a respectable way while maintaining your job as a doctor. Now, let's get into today's second story. I am writing this as a bit of a journaling exercise and maybe for some support from people who have been through the same. Thanks for being so welcoming. We have been together since 2015 and early on, I planned for this to be a lifelong relationship. It was rocky along the way, and this is part of the reason I never managed to propose. However, there is still a very mature ring fund which will go somewhere else. Now, I'm sure around 2019, I began to think that maybe our relationship was not going to be like how I had imagined it. We fought a lot, nothing physical, of course, just disagreements and mutual pouting and discontent. Our sex life dropped off significantly after 2016 for medical reasons, and it never really seemed to recover. In June of last year, we had ad an M where she said in as many words that I did not satisfy her. I had never satisfied her. And the thought of me in bed made her sick. It was very upsetting at the time. And in hindsight, I shouldn't have called our relationship then. But we decided initially that we were trying to work our way through our problems. And we also ended up having a 4-month-long lockdown shortly afterward. So I didn't want to throw her onto the street or anything around September. I discovered she had been sexting some guy overseas. A total breach of trust. But I decided I would bracket it because there was nothing physical. And even though we never discussed it openly, I thought she knew that I knew I never broached this directly, but we eventually decided we would go to couples therapy. I discovered yesterday that she slept with another man in November last year while she was out of town on a short holiday. Some random she met online and I presume she had been chatting with for a few weeks. At least I didn't care to ask for the exact date. But it was either shortly before or shortly after our first couples therapy session. When she went to work today, I left a note on the table saying goodbye, packed a bag and went to my parents' place for a few days. This evening after she came home, we had an hour-long SMS-only discussion. I don't want to talk about it aloud. I can't put my words together in time to speak them, where she took responsibility for everything, promised to change and asked if I would come back. I appreciated her honesty. I believe everything she has said. This was completely unlike her, something she acknowledged, and she is afflicted by both mental illness and gruesome sexual trauma as a child and young adult. But I said that this was a hard barrier for me. And I would not consider coming back even if we continued to seek a couples therapy for this issue. I said I would consider going back to our therapist to work through the breakup process, as we had discussed this previously in one of our sessions. And I can see how it could be helpful. It is also something our therapist has worked on, even if we could make our way past this and she found a way to fix herself. It would always be a part of our past and something I will never be able to reconcile myself with while we were in a relationship. I don't fully believe that there has only been one other man. I asked how many other people she has had sex with during our relationship and she said one. But I think this might have been a very strict definition of sex, and that she has been emotionally and physical cheating with several other men over at least the past 6 months. And even up until now, she said that this was a part of her life that felt like it was without consequence. And although that is obviously wrong, I can understand what she was saying. Anyway, the number doesn't matter. One is one too many. I feel very dirty for how I found this all out, especially since I was going by a gut feeling. But I feel partially vindicated by my gut being right. I don't know if I can shake this feeling of shame for having been able to discover this. Even though it is for the best that I know and that we separate, I will likely be moving my appointment with my own therapist forward a few weeks to help with where I go from here. I don't quite know how she moved on from this, but I'm trying my best to focus on myself. I don't know what I will do with myself yet because so much of who I am, what I do and what I'm like, revolved around what we were. I picked up my guitar for the first time in a few months and couldn't do much with it. I don't play as much now because I felt embarrassed playing around her, not her fault. She was always very encouraging of all my creative pursuits. I have a few friends, but I am both a very reserved person and also someone who gets lonely easily. I might need to house share because I don't know if living alone is a good idea for me. Right now. I did say that I hope we can be friends one day, and I really do, besides the infidelity and our other problems. She's great and we did gel in a very cool way. But in my heart of hearts, it doesn't seem likely at the very least as soon as either one of us starts seeing someone else unless they're super chill. I don't think it's going to work. I decided that I'm not going to be super candid with other people about the circumstances of our breakup. There's no need to be, but it's something that I would mention to a future partner. And I can imagine for them that it would be a bit weird for your partner to be friends with their ex who is also a cheater. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. She will likely move to another city and we won't have much opportunity to see each other again. Anyway, that's my story. There were times this morning when I thought I might try to just let it slide and forget about it. But I'm glad the part of me which stood fast went over because there was really no future knowing this. It would always eat at me. I don't know what the future holds and I am truly scared because I've had struggles with alcohol and smoking in the past, which my partner really helped me to temper. I stopped smoking as a condition of getting together, which I'm grateful for, maybe with a sneaky cigarette every now and then at the pub, and I don't have that anymore. I have made a short list of things for me to try to do with myself for the next 4 weeks and have committed to not buying any spirits at all for now and only smoking. If I've gone out and someone offers, I don't go out often. So this is generally sustainable for me. If there is anything any of you have done to get past the first few weeks and months of your breakup due to infidelity, I would certainly appreciate any advice if you have made it this far. Thanks a lot for reading. Hope you are getting along your journey. Alright as well. If you are, then feel free to drop into the comments and let me know that it gets better because I need it. It's sad when you have perspectives with your partner and you realize that it was only you who thought about a future together. In any case, according to your history, it feels that she was never an honest girlfriend to you. I think there are many red flags after the time together. For example, constant arguments and lack of sex. I think your decision is correct. She spent weeks preparing the last one she did, where he went directly to sleep with him. The best thing you can do right now is to go get your things when she's not around and cut off all kinds of relationships. Really? Why keep talking to such a disgusting person? Just say goodbye and cut your losses. Best of luck to you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also comment below with your thoughts. Take care.